Responsibility is the price of freedom. Elbert Hubbard. Freedom is not about doing what you want, but about being aware of the consequences of everything you do. When we have the right to choose, we must also be ready to accept the outcomes of those choices. Like a bird soaring through the vast sky, true freedom lies not in the absence of a cage, but in knowing how to fly, when to rest, and understanding that the wind is not always favorable. A person who seeks freedom of speech must learn to take responsibility for their words. A person who seeks freedom of action must know that their actions may affect others, and a truly free person needs no one to control them, for they already know how to control themselves. Responsibility is the invisible thread that keeps freedom from turning into chaos. It is like the reins on a horse, not to bind, but to guide. A responsible person does not lose freedom. On the contrary, they are the ones who truly master their life. For freedom without responsibility is merely indulgence. But when we embrace responsibility, we write the most beautiful chapter of freedom, the chapter of maturity, self-mastery, and character. Freedom is never free. Every true value in life comes at a cost, and freedom is one of the most precious. Freedom is not just the right to speak, act, or live as you wish, but the responsibility to choose and bear the consequences of those choices. It does not come from being granted, but from struggle, sometimes against society, but mostly against oneself. For we cannot be truly free if we remain bound by fear, dependence, or the limits we impose on ourselves. Remember that all freedom is paid for with sweat, tears, and even the blood of those who dare to defend it. A nation gains independence through struggle. An individual achieves inner freedom through long days of facing pain, prejudice, and the loneliness of daring to be different. If life is a sky, then freedom is a pair of wings, but those wings are not given. They are forged through falls, lessons, and relentless resilience. Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. Oscar Wilde. In today's society, where every standard is molded like a cast, from how we dress, speak, or live, people easily forget that the most beautiful thing is not a perfect copy, but an inimitable original. Be yourself is not just advice. It is a journey that demands courage. Courage to be different, to embrace your flaws, and to believe that your true value lies in who you are. If each person is a star, the sky only shines brightly when every star radiates its own light, not borrowing the glow of another. For everyone else is already taken, meaning the world does not need another copy. What it needs is you, the real you, with your unique thoughts, emotions, and story. Live true to yourself. You may not please everyone, but you will surely feel free. That authenticity is what makes you memorable, valuable, and special in the eyes of others. For among millions of similar faces, the one who dares to be themselves truly stands out, like a wildflower that blooms confidently in a meadow without needing tending. Discovering yourself is discovering the universe. Each of us is a microcosm, a vessel of infinite thoughts, emotions, memories, dreams, and possibilities. When we learn to understand ourselves, we open the door to the vast world of our soul, where every thought is a star, every emotion a planet, and every dream a constellation waiting to be illuminated. Discovering yourself is not just knowing who you are, but understanding why you feel, choose, and exist the way you do. Like astronauts needing a map to navigate the vastness of space, we need the journey of self-discovery to find our own solar system. where the light of awareness illuminates the darkness of doubt and limitation. The more we understand ourselves, the clearer we see the world. For the universe outside is but a reflection of the universe within. A person who knows what they want, love, or fear is one who holds the map to peace and happiness. Your greatest strength lies in your uniqueness. In a world where it's easy to be swept up by trends, comparisons, and imitation, holding on to your uniqueness is not just courageous. It is a manifestation of inner strength. Uniqueness is something no one can replicate. It is shaped by your individual experiences, wounds, joys, and the way you perceive life. If life is a garden, each person is a different flower. No flower is more beautiful. Only those that bloom rightly in their own place and way. And it is that distinct fragrance that makes the garden of humanity vibrant. True strength does not lie in trying to become someone else, but in daring to live true to yourself. For when you embrace your uniqueness, you stop comparing, stop doubting, and begin to shine in your own way. Others may do things better than you, but no one can be you better than you. Believe that your difference is not a weakness, but your secret weapon. When you dare to be yourself, the world will see a light only you can create, a light that cannot be imitated or replaced. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. Rumi. On the surface, it seems a paradox. How can a tiny drop contain the vast ocean? Yet within that paradox lies the truth of the greatness hidden in every soul. When we see ourselves as just a drop in the ocean, we feel small, easily dissolved, easily forgotten. But when we realize the ocean exists within each drop, we understand that every individual carries the essence of the whole wisdom, love, pain, aspirations, and infinite creativity. We are not separate from the world. We are a living part of it, carrying within us the current of life, of the universe, like a tiny dewdrop, reflecting the entire blue sky. Humans reflect the beauty, the vastness of creation. When we understand this, we no longer feel alone or insignificant. Instead, we cherish every breath, every emotion, every moment. For in each small moment, the entire universe is at work. Freedom is not doing what you want, but not having to do what you don't want. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Freedom is not a bird flying aimlessly in the vast sky, but a bird that knows its direction, knows when to pause when the winds are too strong. It is the awareness in choosing, the ability to say no to what harms your soul. When you can smile and refuse things that don't belong to you, a job that exhausts you, a relationship that diminishes your worth, or a path that no longer brings joy, then you are truly living in freedom. Freedom is not loud. It is not shouting, "I want this, I want that," but the inner peace of knowing you have the right to choose, to step away from what doesn't fit. Like a river, freedom is not just about flowing, but about knowing how to avoid rocks, how to curve toward the great sea. Thus, true freedom comes not from doing everything, but from knowing when to stop. It is not the power to possess, but the strength to let go. When a person is brave enough to not do what they don't want, they reach the pinnacle of freedom, a freedom unshackled by the outside world, born from the serenity within. With great power comes great responsibility. Voltaire. Power is like a double-edged sword, one edge to protect, the other to destroy. Those who wield it without conscience or compassion are easily swept into the vortex of arrogance, turning power into a burden or even a disaster. But when power is paired with responsibility, with kindness, understanding, and noble purpose, it becomes a light, guiding not only oneself, but also others. A truly powerful person is not one who instills fear in others, but one who inspires trust. Not everyone with power is great, but those who understand their responsibility have taken a great step toward greatness. Like a torch, its light only matters when used to illuminate the path, not to set fire to everything around it. For everyone holds their own power in life, the power of words, actions, and the small influence we leave behind. And each time we choose love over judgment, help over indifference, we quietly but greatly fulfill our responsibility. Your choices reveal who you truly are, more than your abilities do. J.K. Rowling. Talent is only the tip of the iceberg, while choices are its deepest core, reflecting your essence, character, and true values within. Abilities may make you shine, but choices show what that light is used for. A person with great talent who chooses selfishness, deceit, or greed turns that strength into a blade that wounds themselves and others. But those who choose what is right, even at a cost, even when the path is hard, they reveal the courage and quality of their soul. Choices are the mirror reflecting the soul. They show whether you are brave or weak, honest or false, living for yourself or for something greater. Amid life's many crossroads, the decisions we make, even the smallest ones, shape the outline of our true self. Abilities may earn admiration for a moment, but rightful choices earn respect for a lifetime. So don't take pride in talent alone, but ask yourself, what am I using my abilities for? How am I choosing to live? No one can give you freedom except yourself. Bob Marley. Few realize that freedom is not a gift others can bestow, but a journey you must seek, claim, and hold on to yourself. For the greatest chains on a person lie not in society, but within their own mind. No one can give you freedom, for freedom is a state of the soul, not a privilege of circumstance. Even if you live in a peaceful land, with the right to choose and every door open, if you remain bound by fear, dependence, or prejudice within, you are still a prisoner of yourself. Freedom does not come from waiting for someone to open the door, but from daring to step through the door already open. It begins when you say no to what is wrong, live true to yourself, and take responsibility for your own life. For only when you master your thoughts, emotions, and actions are you truly free. Don't seek freedom in the hands of others. No one has the power to grant you freedom. They can only take it if you allow them. Only you, with your will, awareness, and courage, can break the invisible chains holding you back. We are not free if we cannot control ourselves. Pythagoras. Freedom is not the absence of limits, but mastery within those limits. When we cannot control ourselves, our emotions, desires, fears, or anger, even if no one binds us, we remain prisoners of our own mind. Freedom begins from within, not without. A person may be physically confined, but if their soul remains bright, choosing peace amid adversity, they are still free. Conversely, if we are swayed by desire, envy, laziness, or dependence on others, we lose the most precious freedom, the freedom to master ourselves. Controlling oneself does not mean suppression, but knowing yourself deeply enough to know when to stop and when to move forward. Like a captain steering through a storm, if you don't hold the helm firmly, the ship of freedom will be swept away by life's waves. Only when we keep a calm mind and clear wisdom can we truly steer our own course. Freedom does not come from being allowed to do everything, but from the ability to choose what is right to do. For a person who cannot control themselves will, sooner or later, be controlled by others, by circumstances, or by their own weaknesses within. Your freedom ends where the freedom of others begins. Each person has their own plot of land to sow their seeds, beliefs, thoughts, actions. But if we cross that boundary, treading on another's garden, even by a single step, we are no longer free, but intruders. Freedom only truly exists when paired with respect. Respect does not diminish our freedom. Rather, it protects it. For if everyone did as they pleased, without regard for others, the world would descend into chaos, and freedom would vanish like foam on a stormy wave. A careless word, an impulsive act, if not bound by respect, can become an invisible blade cutting into another's freedom. Thus, true freedom is knowing how to balance I and we, the individual and the collective, the self and humanity. Freedom is not running alone on an empty road, but walking together without stepping on each other's toes. When we know to stop at another's boundary, we do not lose freedom. We prove we are worthy of it. The world doesn't need your advice. It needs your actions. Anyone can talk about change, but only those who act create change. No matter how brilliant advice is, it's meaningless without action. For words are but a passing breeze, while actions are seeds planted in the earth. The world doesn't need more people standing on the sidelines, judging or criticizing, but those who dare to step in, get their hands dirty, and face challenges to make good things real. A person picking up trash on the street, comforting the suffering, or living kindly each day, they do more than 100 eloquent speeches. Change doesn't begin with words, but with the first step. Sometimes you don't need to be a hero, just someone who acts, for it's the small, repeated actions that contribute to great things. No action is without responsibility. Every action is like a small stone cast into a lake. It creates ripples that spread farther than we imagine. A word can warm someone's heart or wound them. A decision can open new opportunities or cause others to bear consequences. And that's why responsibility is not a burden, but the natural shadow of action. Where there is action, there is responsibility. Responsibility gives action meaning. If we act without considering consequences, that is impulsiveness. If we act only for our own gain, ignoring others, that is selfishness. But when we act knowing that every deed affects someone, somewhere, that action becomes maturity, becomes character. Don't live as if your actions don't matter, for every choice, intentional or not, shapes the world we live in. Those who understand this act with greater care, greater kindness, and live with greater responsibility for themselves and for life. Regret comes from not acting, not from failed actions. In life's journey, everyone fears mistakes, falls, or losses. That fear makes many stand still, waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, or certain guarantees. But as time passes, they realize the scariest thing is not failure, but the what if? What if I had dared to start? What if I had believed in myself? Action may bring failure, but failure brings lessons, experiences, and growth. Inaction, however, leaves only emptiness, an invisible scar in the soul, where we forever wonder, what could have been if I had dared to move? Failure is temporary, but regret lasts forever. Those who act, even if they fail, can still hold their head high, for they know they lived truly, dared to try, and refused to let fear steer their life. Those who only watch will always be haunted by unanswered questions. This saying does not encourage recklessness, but courageous living, daring to choose, to step forward, to face the results. For only through action do we truly touch life, and only through experience do we understand our own value. You can change your life anytime you want. You only need to want it. Many believe they are bound by circumstances, fate, or the past. But the truth is, we are not imprisoned by what has happened, but by the belief that we cannot change it. Change does not begin with action, but with desire, a small spark in the mind saying, I deserve a better life. As long as you truly want it, you will find a way. When will surpasses fear, humans can overcome limits that seem insurmountable. Every great journey begins with a simple moment, the moment you decide to no longer live as before. Life doesn't wait for you to be ready. It only asks you to begin. No matter how small the change, waking up earlier, reading a page, stepping out of your comfort zone, all are signs of transformation. And bit by bit, you rewrite the story of your life. Responsibility to yourself. If you don't change, no one can change for you. All power lies in two words, want and dare. Man is a political animal, Aristotle. Politics here is not just about parliaments, power, or laws, but the art of living together. For wherever people coexist, there is organization, rules, compromise, and cooperation. Politics, in its purest sense, is the quest to find ways for humans to live together without destroying one another. Humans are political animals because we have reason, language, and the ability to empathize and debate. These qualities lift us above instinct, allowing us to think for the collective, to sacrifice the self for the harmony of the whole. Politics is not far off. It exists in every decision, every conversation, every daily interaction. When you listen to others, choose respect over imposition, or speak up for what is right, you are engaging in politics in its noblest form, the act of a conscious citizen. No man is an island entire of itself. John Donne. An island entire of itself is an image of isolation, cut off amidst a vast sea. But humans cannot be so. Each person is but a part of the vast continent called humanity. When one person suffers, the world loses a piece of itself. When one person rises, humanity is elevated a step higher. This saying reminds us that every success bears the trace of others, a helping hand, a word of encouragement, or simply a look of trust. No one can grow, find happiness, or overcome everything alone. True strength lies not in solitude, but in the ability to lean on, walk with, and empathize with others. The world is woven from countless invisible threads of connection between person and person, heart and heart. When we understand this, we live with more compassion, more gratitude, knowing that every small act of ours can ripple out, touching someone out there. A philosophy of life and a call to humanity: live kindly, for each person is a piece in the shared mosaic.